Walk our audience through this bombshell.
It's so huge. I hope you're all sitting down. It is the smoking gun. So, Steve, you've asked me many times over the last couple of years that I've been on your show, how could this happen? Meaning the catastrophic crime against humanity that's represented by these injections specifically, and their targeting of human reproduction, the massive neurological events, the cardiac events, the deaths, all the things that this audience is so familiar with. And I haven't had a good answer for you because it's such, I've said over and over, and I don't mean to belabor this, but to remind everyone, when Steve says, how could this happen? I always say, from my experience working around a White House, that it can't happen unless the boss says it has to, or that it can. You can't kill Americans. I've said this so many times on this show, knowingly without the okay of the president, because you're literally burning up too much political capital. No one wants to be on the receiving end of having killed Americans when that comes to light. Without the imprimatur of the president. You can't do it. If someone is found to have killed Americans inadvertently, they get, fired and shamed publicly, and it's all put on them, and that's the end of them. And that's not what we were seeing, right? So I knew that up the chain of command, the White House had to be involved in these decisions, but we just didn't have the smoking gun. Now we have the smoking gun. Tonight we have the smoking gun. And once again, it's the inexplicably extraordinary Amy Kelly who has explained what the smoking gun is. And she's been able to do so because one of you remember we have 200 volunteer lawyers at the War Room Daily Clout project that you all have supported and been instrumental in making happen. So one of these lawyers' name is Ed Berkovich, and he FOIA'd, meaning sent a Freedom of Information Act demand to the CDC about myocarditis. And something very interesting happened. He got 472 pages from the CDC in response to that FOIA. But someone at the CDC, I think, is a whistleblower or is trying to get out of the way of an oncoming train of criminality, because he was also given an additional 46 pages, which he didn't ask for. And these additional 46 pages, over 80% of the pages were fully redacted. And I sent your producer these pages. They're redacted in a really novel way. They're completely white as opposed to being black bars. There you go. And that's a redaction. It's not a mistake. It's not a technical glitch. It's pages and pages and pages are redacted just like that, white, as if that makes it less redacted if it's not black bars. But it turns out that 7 pages were partially redacted, 37 fully redacted. And so this is where Amy Kelly is doing a better job as a reporter than the New York Times or the Washington Post. The redactions were, quote, pursuant to 5 USC 552 exemptions 5 and 6. So she looked up, what is that code? What is that redaction code? Well, it has to do with the White House. It has to do with presidential communications. Exemption 5 includes, quote, information withheld under this exemption protected under the deliberative process and presidential communications privileges. Another quote, the presidential communications privilege protects documents solicited and received by the president or his immediate White House advisors who have broad and significant responsibility for investigating and formulating the advice given to the president. So I'm just saying, the reason for all these redactions is that what is redacted was solicited or shared with the president or his most senior advisors. Now, what is in these documents? I will tell you. In May of 2021, and these documents deal with May 24th to 25th of 2021, the White House is freaking out, as well as the CDC, as well as NIH. The people CC'd on these White House comms include Dr. Rochelle Walensky, Abigail Tumpy, former Assistant Director of Communication Science for the CDC, the most senior people, We've also got CDC Deputy Director for Advance, Agnes Warner, and we've got a CDC COVID White House press briefing. The press briefing includes a script, quote unquote, and some tough QA, quote unquote, regarding COVID. The press conference script slide and Q&A are fully redacted. But what is making these people freak out? And by the way, Dr. Fauci is on CC, Andrew Slavitt, White House Senior Advisor for COVID Response, is on CC, Dr. Francis Collins, Director of NIH at that time, on CC, Vice Admiral Vivek Murthy, the Surgeon General, is on CC, Marcella Nunez-Smith of the COVID-19 Health Equity Task Force on CC. And here I've got like 15 people, and you see in bold, White House, White House, White House, Office of the Surgeon General, White House, White House, White House, White House, White House, the most senior people at the White House. And what is everyone so freaked out about? What's this script about that the White House developed with slides that we're not allowed to see? They knew, and they were freaking out because there were updates on TTS, which is thrombotic thrombocytopenia syndrome and myocarditis, etc. Quote. In other words, thrombotic thrombocytopenia is one of those diseases, a serious, serious condition that we've seen at industrial scale in the Pfizer documents. Blood clots. Remember in my litany of what's in the documents, I always say blood clots, lung clots, leg clots, blood clots, lung clots, leg clots, problems with platelets, clots in your brain, clots in places that they shouldn't be, problems with bleeding, the menstrual issues, problems with bleeding. So thrombotic thrombocytopenia causes clotting problems. And that's what they're freaking out about, that they know that this is happening. They know it's happening. The other thing they're freaking out about is myocarditis. They know it's happening. The evidence came in, the updates came in, and the American people are going to be asking questions or starting to ask questions. So they convene a set of crisis meetings, basically, in which they're basically trying to formulate a press response. These are all press people. And the email from May 25th, 2021 is from Benjamin Wakana, White House Deputy Director of Strategic Communications and Engagement. And he writes about, quote, COVID tough QA to Dr. Walensky, Anthony Fauci, Andrew Slavitt, as I mentioned, Francis Collins. And basically what they did there, and this is what's redacted, the actual work product, is they crafted a media response. And by the way, there are people who deal with broadcast news as well in that list. And the media response doesn't tell the truth after May of 2021. Go back to May, June, July, August, all of 2021. Dr. Fauci lied and lied and lied subsequent to this crisis meeting, these crisis communications, this slide deck that we can't see. And Dr. Fauci said safe and effective, safe and effective. Dr. Rochelle Walensky said safe and effective, safe and effective. They said myocarditis. They rolled out myocarditis. And remember what they said always. Extremely rare, mild, resolves. Extremely rare, mild, resolves. They knew that they were lying, and they said nothing about the clotting issue from what I recall. So basically they created from this set of crisis communications directed by the White House with the White House's most senior advisors, the COVID-19 response project, which was overseen by the White House on like 15 of these people who were leading this set of lies to the American public. They were convening because horrible things were happening. The news had been brought to them. It had been brought to them in February by Israel that there was heart damage. It was brought to them again in April that there was heart damage and blood clots. Now it's May, 4 months after they first knew about the huge amounts of myocarditis and blood clots. And in May, they get together at the behest of the White House to create a media response that you experienced all of 2021, all of 2022, to get you to keep injecting this into your body and injecting it into the bodies of your loved ones. And they knew that they were lying, and they knew that they were hurting people with blood clots, platelet problems, and heart damage. And that's what they did, and that's what happened.
Because in this, and by the way, it looks like this was over Memorial Day weekend or close to it. Because in their response, they continue to stick with the information they had been putting out. They did not update the information given the evidence that was coming to them at that time.
Well, think back. I mean, everyone think back. May of 2021, was there a White House press conference, which there should have been, with information like this saying, we found out that these injections cause blood clots, clots throughout the body, problems with clotting, and we're going to pull this injection from the market. We found out that it causes heart damage in healthy young adult men, so we're going to pull it off the market. That's not what happened. They crafted a media response that you received all of 2021 and 2022, in which they trotted out myocarditis as something completely trivial and extremely rare. They knew they were lying. And that's probably what is in these 17 pages that are redacted of the script. It's not my word, script, it's their word, script, and slides that all these senior people, Fauci, Walensky, the White House, the president too, are supposed to stick to this script. They rolled it out to lie to you. They lied to you and lied to you. They said it was safe and effective, and they were having crisis comms, strategic freak out at the highest levels with all their comms people, right? These are not scientists alone. These are scientists and message people. And I understand what I'm looking at because I was an advisor to a vice president and to a presidential campaign. This is the message shop as well as the top scientists and the Surgeon General who's supposed to keep us healthy. So it's not surprising to me that the COVID-19 response project disbanded, because this smoking gun is what they've been so afraid would come to light. And now it's come to light, and it shows that they're absolute criminals.
This is a pretty big blockbuster, and the buried lead there is, it looks like someone, look, it could have been a slip up, but somebody potentially at CDC understands what's going on and actually put in additional pages, which it blew this thing wide open.